The heavy, antique lace of the veil tasted like lies and desperation. Elara Ashford kept her eyes fixed on the marble floor, counting the seconds by the hammering of her own heart. 1. The organ swelled. 2. Her father's grip on her arm tightened, a bruising reminder of the bargain. 3. The scent of lilies and old money filled the cavernous church. She wasn't supposed to be here. This dress, a cascade of silk and impossible expectations, belonged to Serafina, her twin sister, the golden one, the beloved one, the one promised to the man waiting at the altar, Darius Sterling. A name whispered in boardrooms with a mix of terror and awe. A corporate reaper who had cornered their father, leveraging the Ashford family's legacy against their mounting, catastrophic debts. The deal was simple. Darius would absorb the debt, merge Ashford Industries into his global empire, and in return, he would take Serafina as his wife. But Serafina, who lived for light and adoration, had vanished 3 days ago, leaving only a cruel, brief note. I won't be sold. You handle it, Elara. You're better at the dark. And so, the shadow twin was shoved into the light. Elara, the quiet observer, the spare, was now the sacrificial lamb. Her father had begged, then threatened. He'll ruin us all, Elara. He'll send me to prison. Think of the family name. The family name, which had only ever brought her obscurity. They reached the altar. Her father placed her trembling, gloved hand into a much larger, impossibly steady one. His grip was firm, possessive. It wasn't a welcome, it was an acquisition. She dared to look up, just through the suffocating mesh of the veil. Darius Sterling was not a man. He was a monument carved from granite and ice. His shoulders were broad beneath the bespoke tuxedo, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes, visible even through the lace, that stole her breath. They were a cold, piercing shade of gray, like a winter storm over the ocean. And they were fixed on her, not with the adoration of a groom, but with the focused intensity of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. She expected the gasp, the outrage, the moment he would lift the veil and roar, "This is not Serafina!" The priest droned on. Darius's voice, when he spoke his vows, was a deep, resonant rumble that vibrated through her. "I do." It was not a promise, it was a statement of fact. It came to her turn. Her throat was sandpaper. I do." The lie felt like poison on her tongue. "You may kiss the bride." The church held its breath. This was it, the moment of her unmasking. Darius Sterling did not hesitate. His hands went to the veil, but he didn't lift it entirely. He gathered the lace in one fist, pulling it back just enough to expose her mouth. He leaned in, and his lips brushed hers. It wasn't a kiss. It was a brand. Cold, brief, and absolute. A seal on a contract. He pulled back, his eyes never leaving hers, and he smiled. It was the most terrifying expression she had ever seen. It held no warmth, no joy. It held only triumph. He knew. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. He knew it was her. He had known, perhaps the entire time, and he had let it happen. The procession back down the aisle was a blur of stunned faces, forced smiles, and the suffocating scent of lilies. Her father looked pale, relieved and guilty. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Darius didn't release her arm. He guided her into the back of a gleaming black limousine that was more armored car than luxury vehicle. The door shut with the heavy finality of a vault. They sat in absolute silence as the car pulled away from the curb, leaving her old life behind. Elara's mind raced, trying to recalibrate. If he knew, why? Why her? Serafina was the prize. Elara was the afterthought. "You're not Serafina," he stated, his voice flat. He wasn't asking. "No," she whispered, her hands clenched in the silk. "I know." He turned to look at her fully for the first time, the imposing force of his presence filling the small space. She ran, didn't she? The little bird flew her cage. You knew and you went through with it? Of course. He loosened his tie, a purely practical gesture that felt strangely intimate. The contract was for an Ashford bride. You qualify. But why? You wanted Serafina. His laugh was a short, harsh sound that scraped against her nerves. Did I? He leaned in, and she pressed herself against the door, desperate for distance. He was too large, too dark, too much. Serafina was the bait, Elara. She was never the target. Her blood ran cold. The target? You. The word hung between them, heavy and unbelievable. Me? Why? I'm no one. I have nothing to offer you. Our families have never even met. Oh, but we have, he murmured. He reached out, his gloved finger tracing the line of her jaw, a touch that felt both invasive and chillingly familiar. She flinched, but he held her gaze. You just don't remember. They arrived not at a penthouse, but at a fortress. A sprawling, modern mansion built into the cliffs overlooking a turbulent, angry sea. It was isolated, beautiful, and utterly terrifying. A prison of glass and stone. The staff, lined up like soldiers, vanished on his command. He led her into a vast, great room dominated by a fireplace that could have roasted an ox. The air was cold. Take it off, he commanded. What? The dress, the veil, all of it. It belongs to her. Her fingers fumbled with the pearls at the back of her neck. He was watching her, his gray eyes cataloging every tremor. I can't reach. He moved behind her. She went utterly still, expecting roughness, anger. Instead, his fingers were surprisingly deft, undoing the tiny buttons one by one. His knuckles brushed her spine as she shivered. Though the room wasn't cold, he was radiating a heat that felt like a banked furnace. When the dress was loosened, he stepped back. Turn around. She did, clutching the silk to her chest. This marriage, he began, stalking the perimeter of the room, is a contract. Your family is safe. Your father will not go to jail for his creative accounting. And me? Her voice was stronger than she expected. What is my price? Your price, he said, stopping directly in front of her, is your presence. You are mine now, Elara. You will stay here, you will be my wife, and you will not leave. You're holding me captive. I am protecting my assets. He tilted his head. And I am enacting my revenge. Revenge? Against my father? Among others. He stepped closer, invading her space until she was forced to crane her neck to look up at him. The smell of expensive cologne and something uniquely him, ozone and power, filled her senses. I don't understand any of this, she whispered, her defiance crumbling into fear. You will. His gaze dropped to her lips, and the memory of that cold, branding kiss echoed on her skin. It's simple. Your family destroyed mine. They took everything from me 10 years ago, and now I'm taking the only thing they truly valued, the one thing they kept hidden away like a precious secret. Serafina, she started, confused. No. His voice was rough, intense. He grabbed her chin, his grip firm, forcing her to meet his burning gaze. The ice was gone, replaced by a consuming fire. Not Serafina. You. I don't remember you, she cried out, the fragmented memory of fire and screaming pressing at the edges of her mind. I know, he grated, his thumb brushing her trembling lower lip. But you will. I'm going to make you remember everything. He released her chin as if he'd been burned, his composure snapping back into place like a steel trap. The master suite is yours. Do not attempt to leave the grounds. You will find there are consequences. He turned and walked out, leaving her standing in the cavernous room, the heavy silk dress pooling at her feet. The silence that descended was absolute, broken only by the distant, angry crash of the waves against the cliffs below. She was alone, married to a stranger who claimed a history she couldn't recall, a prisoner in a house built on vengeance. Her legs, weak and trembling, finally carried her up the sweeping staircase. The master suite was as vast and impersonal as the rest of the house. A wall of glass faced the churning ocean, the view both magnificent and desolate. Her luggage was already there, unpacked. Her simple, practical clothes looked meager and out of place in the opulent walk-in closet. She tore the wedding dress from her body, leaving it in a heap on the floor, a symbol of her sister's betrayal and her own entrapment. After a scalding shower, where she scrubbed at her skin as if she could wash off his touch, she felt a sliver of her own strength return. If this was a prison, she would learn the layout of her cell. Darius had been too precise. "I'm going to make you remember." He wanted her to look. He was playing a game. On the massive, sterile desk in the corner, a single, leather-bound book sat perfectly centered. It wasn't a diary. It was a scrapbook, or perhaps an evidence file. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The first page held a single, faded newspaper clipping. The headline screamed, "Sterling Industries engulfed. Tragedy claims CEO and wife in devastating fire." Below it, a grainy photo of a younger, smiling couple. The man was clearly a younger version of Darius, but the woman... Elara's breath hitched. She had kind eyes, a gentle smile. The date on the article was 10 years ago. To the day. She sank into the chair, the room spinning. 10 years ago. She would have been 18. She remembered that time? Vaguely. It was the summer Serafina had her debut, the summer Elara had been hidden away at a finishing school in Switzerland after what her father called an episode. She'd been ill, they said. A brief, nervous breakdown brought on by the stress of exams. Her memory of that entire month was hazy, fractured, like a dream half-remembered upon waking. Smoke, fire, shouting. She'd always assumed it was a nightmare, a symptom of her illness. A cold dread, heavier than the ocean fog, settled over her. Her phone, which she'd assumed wouldn't work, buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a name that made her stomach clench, Serafina. Elara snatched it up, her anger a welcome heat against the cold fear. "Where are you?" she hissed. "Oh, Ellie, thank God." Serafina's voice was bright, careless, and infuriatingly cheerful. She sounded like she was at a party. Elara could hear music in the background. "So, how did it go? Did he buy it? Is he furious?" "He married me, Sarah." There was a pause. Oh. Serafina giggled, a light, tinkling sound. "Well, that's unexpected, but good. It's done then. Father is safe, and you're Mrs. Sterling. You always did land on your feet." You ran," Elara said, her voice hollow. "You left me to be sold." "Don't be so dramatic, Ellie. It's a win-win. I get my freedom, and you get him. He's gorgeous, isn't he? Even if he is a corporate shark. Honestly, I did you a favor. You were never going to find anyone moldering away in that library." The cruelty of it, the casual dismissal of her life, was staggering. He knew, Serafina. He knew it was me. The music stopped. "What? What do you mean he knew?" "He knew it wasn't you. He married me on purpose." This time the silence was longer, heavier. "Well," Serafina said finally, her voice suddenly small. "That's strange. Why would he—" "Listen, Elara, I have to go. My flight to Mykonos is boarding. Just be careful. Father said Darius was a dangerous man." "He said that before or after he sold me to him." But the line was already dead. Elara threw the phone against the wall, a strangled sob of rage and helplessness tearing from her throat. It wasn't a win-win. It was a trap. Serafina was the bait, and she was the one caught in the snare. She was still breathing heavily when the door opened. Darius stood there, not a hint of surprise on his face. He was in a black shirt, sleeves rolled up to his forearms, revealing strong, scarred arms. He held a small silver box. "I thought you might be hungry," he said, his voice impassive. He placed the box on the desk, next to the open scrapbook. He glanced at the clipping. "A trip down memory lane?" "You did this," she whispered, gesturing to the photo. "This is your revenge, but it makes no sense. My father, he's a rival, not a monster. He wouldn't do that." "Wouldn't he?" Darius moved to the window, the storm outside silhouetting his powerful frame. "Your father is a man who would sell his own daughter to save his skin. Do you truly believe there's a line he wouldn't cross?" The truth of that hit her hard. "What do you want from me, Darius?" "I told you, I want you to remember." "Remember what?" "I was in Switzerland." "Were you?" He turned and his gray eyes pinned her. "That's the story he told you. The nervous breakdown. Very convenient. A way to file away the trauma, to medicate the memories until they were just nightmares." He stepped toward her, and she instinctively recoiled. He stopped, his hands clenching at his sides. "Open the box." She stared at him, suspicious. "It's not poisoned, Elara. It's food." Her fingers fumbled with the clasp. Inside, nestled on a napkin, was a single, perfect macaron. Lavender and honey. Her blood turned to ice. She couldn't breathe. How did you know?" "You used to steal them from the governor's ball," he murmured, his voice softening for the first time, becoming something other than the cold tycoon. It was rougher, deeper, and laced with a pain that mirrored her own shock. "You'd hide on the back terrace behind the ivy, convinced no one could see you." Who are you?" she whispered, the pastry forgotten. This went beyond revenge. This was intimate. "I was the boy who watched you," he said, his voice raw. "I was the scholarship kid your father paraded around as his charity project, while he was secretly bleeding my father's company dry. I was the one who pulled you from the fire." Her hand flew to her mouth. The nightmare, the smoke, the suffocating heat, the feeling of being lifted, carried, the intense, piercing gray eyes staring down at her through the flames, moments before the world went black. It wasn't a nightmare," she breathed, stumbling back until she hit the wall. "No." He advanced on her, the predator returning, the brief softness vanishing. "It was the night your father murdered my parents, and it was the night you saved my life, just by being there." He was inches away now, his heat a tangible thing. He braced one hand against the wall beside her head, trapping her. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked, the phrase both a question and a devastating accusation. "I've been searching for you for 10 years, Elara, and now you're mine, and I'll never let you go." The name hit her with the force of a memory breaking the surface of a dark lake. Daz, a boy. Not a boy, really. A young man, maybe 20, working the event. He wasn't in a tuxedo like the other guests. He was in the crisp, black uniform of the Sterling Industries junior executives, a charity case scholarship student, as her father had dismissively called him. The memory, no longer hazy but sharp and agonizingly clear, flooded her. Firelight. Not from the grand fireplaces, but from the window. She was 18, hiding on the terrace behind the ivy, just as he'd said. She'd fled the ballroom, suffocated by Serafina's radiance and her father's polite, continuous efforts to steer her away from important guests. He'd found her there. Daz. He hadn't said, "What's a pretty girl like you doing out here?" He'd simply leaned against the balustrade beside her and said, "They're vampires, aren't they?" She'd startled, clutching the stolen macaron. "What?" "All of them," he'd gestured with his chin toward the glittering ballroom, "draining the life out of everything to fuel themselves." She'd looked at his intense, storm-gray eyes, and for the first time in her life, hadn't felt invisible. I think you're right. He'd smiled, a quick, devastating flash of warmth in his serious face. I'm Darius, but my friends, well, my mother calls me Daz. Elara. They'd talked for an hour, about books, about feeling like ghosts in their own lives, about his parents, whom he worshipped, and his father's groundbreaking energy research. About her sister, who shone so brightly, Elara felt she was living in perpetual shadow. You're not a shadow, he'd said, his voice low. You're the shadow's edge. It's where the real substance is. Then the screaming started. Not joy, terror. The world had dissolved into heat and smoke. Her father had grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the front lawn. It's collapsing. We have to go. Wait, she'd screamed, pulling free. Daz, his parents. Their suite is in the east wing, above the terrace. Elara, no, it's too late. It's a terrible accident. But she'd seen it. A flicker of movement, someone locking the terrace doors from the outside, a figure in a dark suit. She'd run back into the inferno. She'd found the stairwell. Smoke choked her, burned her lungs. She'd reached the landing just as the floor gave way, fire erupting around her. She was trapped. And then, through the wall of flames, a hand, a strong arm wrapping around her waist. He was carrying her, his body shielding hers from the falling debris, his gray eyes burning with an intensity that matched the fire. I've got you, Elara. Hold on. She must have blacked out. The next thing she remembered was waking up in a sterile white room. Switzerland, her father at her bedside. You were in an accident, darling. A small fire at the hotel. You're confused. You had a breakdown. You've been imagining things. It's for the best that you rest here, where no one can find you, where you can forget. Now, in the cold, cliff-top prison, Elara stared at the man in front of her, the man who was her husband. You, she breathed, her voice cracking. You were Daz. His entire body went rigid. The carefully constructed mask of the ruthless CEO shattered, and for a fleeting second she saw the boy on the terrace, the young man in the fire. His jaw worked, his throat contracting. No one, he said, his voice a raw whisper, has called me that in 10 years. You saved me. And I left you. They told me I was sick. They told me it was a nightmare. They lied, he growled, the ice returning, hardening over the exposed wound. Your father knew you were there. He knew you saw him. He pulled you away, and when you ran back, he let you go. He left you to die, Elara, just like he left my parents. No. It was a pathetic sound, a child's denial. He locked the doors to the east wing. My father had just discovered the proof that Ashford was siphoning millions, creating a shell company to bankrupt Sterling Industries from the inside. My father was going to expose him the next day, so your father set a fire to destroy the evidence, and the witnesses. He was too close again, his intensity a physical force. But he failed. He didn't destroy all the evidence, and he didn't kill all the witnesses. Me, she whispered, the horror of it settling on her. I'm the witness. You're the only witness. His hand came up, not to her chin, but to her hair, his fingers tangling in the damp strands. It wasn't gentle. It was possessive, anchoring. I've spent a decade rebuilding my father's name from the ashes. I've spent every waking moment hunting the man responsible, and I've spent every night searching for the one person who knew the truth. Why didn't you just go to the police? He laughed, a bitter, painful sound. With what? The word of a charity case scholarship boy against the pillar of society, Thomas Ashford, and his star witness? The daughter he'd conveniently locked away in a Swiss mental institution diagnosed with trauma-induced hysteria? Elara's knees gave out. The betrayal was too vast. Her father, her sister, her entire life. Darius caught her, his arms wrapped around her, effortlessly lifting her as if she weighed nothing. He didn't carry her to the bed in a romantic gesture. He carried her because she was collapsing, his grip iron firm, a stark contrast to the memory of him shielding her from the fire. He deposited her on the edge of the massive bed, his proximity still suffocating. He didn't step back. He kneeled in front of her, forcing her to look at him. "This is not a marriage, Elara. This is a cage. But you're not in it with me. I'm in it with you. Your father will not get to you. He will not silence you again. So this revenge, it's not just for your parents. It's for me. I'll protect you, even if it costs me everything," he said, his voice thick, echoing the promise she'd heard in cheap dramas. But his meant something else. It meant something terrifyingly real. "He sold you to me to cover a debt. He thought he was giving me the damaged, worthless one. He has no idea he handed me the one and only weapon that can destroy him." "What do you want me to do?" she asked, her voice hollow, devoid of hope. "I want you to live," he said, his intensity burning her. "I want you to stand beside me at the Sterling Industries relaunch gala in 1 week. And I want you to remember, I can't. You can." He reached into the inner pocket of his jacket and pulled out a folded yellow document. It wasn't a newspaper clipping. He unfolded it. It was a medical report. From the Clinic AMC, Switzerland. Patient, Elara Ashford. Diagnosis, acute hysteria, delusional paranoia. Physician's note, patient claims fabricated memories of fire, violence, and conspiracy, implicating her own father. Father has authorized a treatment of isolation and heavy sedation to prevent self-harm and the spreading of these damaging fantasies. It was signed by a doctor she didn't recognize, but at the bottom, in a bold, familiar hand, was the authorization signature, Thomas Ashford. He hadn't just saved his company, he had buried his daughter to do it. "He didn't just let me burn," Elara whispered, the paper trembling in her hand. "He erased me." "And I," Darius said, his voice dropping to a deadly, possessive murmur as he closed her fingers over the document, "am the only one who remembered to look." The brittle, yellowed paper felt like ash in her hands. He hadn't just erased her, he had used her love and trust against her, painting her as a madwoman to save himself. The nervous breakdown wasn't an illness, it was an alibi. The finishing school wasn't a privilege, it was a prison. Elara had always thought herself the unloved one, the quiet, overlooked shadow to Serafina's blinding sun. But this was not neglect. This was a calculated, cold-blooded execution of her identity. She looked up at Darius, her husband, her captor, the boy from the fire. The terror that had been coiling in her stomach for hours didn't vanish, but it was eclipsed by something new, something cold and sharp, a diamond-hard rage. He was watching her, his gray eyes narrowed, analytical. He was waiting for the hysteria his report had documented. He expected tears, a breakdown, another retreat into the illness her father had invented for her. She folded the paper, her movements precise, and handed it back to him. "All right," she said. Her voice was steady, the tremor gone. Darius blinked, his stony expression faltering in surprise. "All right? He took your parents. He took my life. You want revenge." She stood, and for the first time she didn't feel small in his presence. She felt focused. "You said this was a cage. Fine. But I will not be the one rattling the bars. You want me to remember? I remember everything. What's the plan for the gala?" A slow, dangerous smile touched his lips, the same smile from the church, but this time, it wasn't terrifying. It was assessing, approving. "So the shadow has teeth after all." He turned. "Come with me." He led her not to another opulent, empty room, but to a study hidden behind a paneled wall. It was a war room, One entire wall was a constellation of faces, timelines, and financial charts, all connected by red string. At the center, a picture of her father, Thomas Ashford, smiling benevolently at a charity dinner. "He didn't just want my father's company," Darius said, his voice dropping into the low, dangerous rumble of obsession. He pointed to a set of blueprints. "He wanted this. My father was weeks away from a patent that would have changed the energy market forever. Clean, sustainable, and impossibly cheap. He called it Phoenix." "The fire," Elara whispered, walking toward the board, "was labeled an industrial accident," Darius spat, his fist clenching. "It tragically destroyed the prototype and all the research. 6 months later, Ashford Industries miraculously debuted a new technology, a watered-down, less efficient version, but one that still cornered the market and made him a billionaire. He stole it. He stole it, and he murdered my parents to cover the theft." He looked at her, the rawness of his loss exposed for a moment. "He took my father's legacy. I built this company back from nothing, from the ashes he left behind. I will not let him keep what he stole. I will not let him win." His passion was a tangible thing, a fire that warmed the cold room. This was his child, this company, this quest for justice. It was an obsessive, consuming love. "So the gala," she said, turning to face him. "It's the 10-year anniversary of the Phoenix Project debut. You're relaunching the real thing." His admiration was palpable. "I've rebuilt it from my father's hidden notes, the ones he left with me, not at the lab. The gala will be its unveiling. And when you unveil it, my father will be ruined. Everyone will know he's a fraud." "More than that," Darius said, stepping closer. "He'll be a suspect. But I need more than suspicion. I need a confession, or a mistake. And that," his gaze fixed on her, "is where you come in. You want to use me as bait." "I want to display you as a survivor," he corrected, his voice intense. "You will be on my arm, my wife, the picture of health. You will wear the sterling diamonds, and you will smile. And he will see you. He will see the daughter he buried, standing beside the son of the man he murdered. He'll see you remembering. And he'll panic." "And when he panics," Darius murmured, "he will try to get to you. He'll try to silence you, just like he did before. He'll try to convince you, or me, that you're still sick." Elara looked back at the wall of evidence. Her eyes landed on a smaller photo, one that made her stomach churn. It was her father, at the memorial service for Darius's parents, his hand on a young, devastated Darius's shoulder, comforting him. The hypocrisy, the sheer audacity, was suffocating. She felt dizzy, the room tilting. He comforted you." She stumbled. Instantly, he was there. His hands gripped her arms, steadying her. His touch was electric, a jolt that cleared her head. "I've got you," he said, the words a low rumble, echoing the same promise he'd made in the inferno. This time, she didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She absorbed his strength, letting it anchor her. His grip was proprietary, protective. He was so close she could feel the heat radiating from his chest, see the flecks of silver in his storm-gray eyes. The air crackled, thick with their shared trauma and an unspoken, dangerous chemistry. "He will come for me," she whispered, not in fear, but as a statement of fact. "And I will be waiting." His gaze dropped to her mouth, and the world seemed to narrow to the space between them. The desire to close that gap, to feel his lips again, not the cold brand of the wedding, but a real kiss, was a sudden, shocking ache. "Let me," Elara said, her voice like steam. She met his gaze, her own eyes no longer hazy with fear, but clear and cold as his. "He buried the wrong daughter. I want him to come." A sharp knock broke the spell. They sprang apart, the tension snapping like a live wire. The door opened, and a severe woman in a black suit, an earpiece visible, stepped in. She didn't look at Elara. "Sir," she said, her voice clipped and professional. "We have a breach. An unscheduled visitor at the main gate. She's demanding to see her sister." Darius didn't have to ask. His eyes locked on Elara's, a new cold anger entering them. "It's Serafina." A cold, vicious satisfaction shot through Elara, so potent it nearly made her smile. Serafina, of course. The golden girl, having flown too close to the sun, was now fluttering back to the cage she had so gleefully abandoned. "Sir?" the security woman repeated, her posture rigid. Darius didn't take his eyes off Elara. The heat from their near kiss, the raw intimacy of his last words, still hung in the air, a tangible, electric field. "She's not demanding anything," he said, his voice a low growl. "She's trespassing. She claims she won't leave until she's assured of Mrs. Sterling's safety." A bitter laugh escaped Elara. Her concern is breathtakingly late. "Let her in," Darius said, finally turning to his security head. "Put her in the main foyer, and Anya, stay with her. Do not let her move." "Yes, sir." The woman vanished as silently as she'd appeared. Darius looked back at Elara. The raw emotion was gone, replaced by the cool strategist. "She's a probe. Your father sent her." "Or she ran out of money," Elara said, straightening her shoulders. "Sarah's loyalty only extends as far as the next credit card transaction. When she found hers declined, which I assume you arranged, Mykonos would have lost its charm." A flicker of surprise, then deep approval, lit his eyes. "I did, 3 days ago." "Then she's here to see what she's missed, to see if the corporate shark is someone she can sink her own teeth into now that she's bored." Elara walked past him toward the hidden door. "Let's not keep my sister waiting." He caught her arm, his grip firm. "You don't have to see her. I can have her removed." She met his gaze, and for the first time, she felt like his equal. "Oh no, I want to see her. I've been living in her shadow my entire life. It's time she saw me." He let her go, his hand sliding down her arm, a brief, possessive caress. He followed her out. The main foyer was a cavern of marble and glass. Serafina stood in the center, looking small and garish. Her white linen travel suit was crumpled. Her blonde hair was messy from the wind, and her eyes were wide with a mix of fury and fear. She was staring at Anya, the security chief, who stood motionless by the door, a clear and present threat. Then she saw them. She saw Elara, dressed not in her usual drab grays, but in a simple, elegant black dress that must have come from Darius's staff. Her hair was down, and she was standing tall. And she saw Darius, a dark, imposing force at her side. "Elara!" Serafina rushed forward, her arms outstretched, the performance beginning. "Oh, my darling, I was so worried. I came back as soon as I heard. Father said, he said this man was, he's keeping you prisoner." Elara didn't move. She let her sister's arms falter and drop in the empty space between them. "You heard?" Elara's voice was cold, echoing slightly in the vast room. "You were in Mykonos, Sarah. The only thing you heard was your bank account being emptied, and you're not worried, you're trespassing." Serafina's perfectly painted mouth fell open. Elara, what's gotten into you? He's turned you against me, against family." "Family?" Elara took a step closer, and her sister instinctively recoiled. "Is that what we are, Sarah? Is family the word you use for the people you sell? The ones you abandon, leaving a note telling them to handle it?" I was scared," Serafina cried, her eyes darting to Darius, who hadn't moved a muscle. He was simply watching, a predator observing a lesser creature's struggles. "Father said this contract was unbreakable. I didn't want to be sold." "So you sold me instead." I did you a favor," Serafina shrieked, her mask of concern cracking to reveal the petulant, ugly greed beneath. "Look at this place. He's disgustingly rich. I gave you this, and you're ungrateful." What I am, Darius's voice cut through the air, is my wife. He moved, and it was so fast, Serafina actually yelped. He was at Elara's side, his hand settling on the small of her back, a gesture of pure, unmistakable possession. And you are redundant. Your business here is finished. Serafina stared at his hand on her sister's back. She looked at Elara's defiant face, then at Darius's cold, dismissive one. The calculation in her eyes was frantic. She'd come here to fix her mistake, to charm the beast, to take back what she thought was hers. And she was failing. She turned her full, albeit desperate, charm on Darius. Darius, you have to understand. It was all a mistake. I was frightened, but now I see. She glided toward him, her hand outstretched to touch his chest. Elara, she's not built for this. For you, she's fragile, always has been, but I understand power. I understand you. Darius looked at her approaching hand, as if it were a snake. Touch me, he whispered, his voice deadly, and you will lose that hand. Serafina froze, her smile collapsing. She's not fragile, Elara said, stepping out from behind him. She was just surrounded by monsters, but I'm not anymore. I'm with one, and he's mine. The shock of Elara's words, the raw possessiveness in her voice, stunned Serafina into silence. She looked from one to the other, her terror finally overwhelming her vanity. This wasn't a game. This wasn't a romance. This was something else. You're sick, Elara, Serafina spat, falling back on the old familiar script. You're mad. You always have been. Father said so. He said you were obsessed with that fire, that you made up stories. He'll tell everyone. He'll tell him. She pointed a shaking finger at Darius. He'll have you locked up again. This was it, the moment of truth. He can't, Elara said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, because I'm the only one who knows the truth. What truth? The truth you've known all along, haven't you, Sarah? The reason you never visited me in Switzerland. The reason you never questioned why I was gone for a year. Elara advanced, and Serafina retreated, step for step. The truth that I wasn't sick. I was silenced. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Elara's voice was merciless. You knew Father was in trouble. You knew he needed that sterling technology. And you knew that I saw him. I saw him at the memorial. And I saw him at the fire. Serafina's face was as white as the marble floor. No. Stop it. You're lying. I saw him lock the doors, Serafina. And when I told him, he locked me away. Elara stopped, inches from her sister's terrified face. He told you I was sick. And you, the good, obedient golden daughter, you believed him. Or worse, you just didn't care. Anya, Darius commanded. His security chief was on Serafina in an instant, her grip on the blonde's arm like a vice. You'll regret this, Serafina screamed, her composure shattered, revealing the true terrified animal beneath. Both of you. Father will destroy you. He'll ruin you, Darius. He'll... The heavy oak doors slammed shut, cutting off her threats. Silence descended, heavy and absolute. Elara stood, shaking, the adrenaline of the confrontation draining away, leaving her exposed and trembling. The weight of 10 years of gaslighting, of betrayal, of lies, crashed down on her. She didn't fall, but she swayed. In a heartbeat, Darius was in front of her. His hands came up to grip her shoulders, his gaze sweeping her face, searching for cracks. He'd expected the breakdown. She just met his eyes, the tears that burned her lids not of weakness, but of a terrible cleansing rage. She knew, Elara whispered, her voice breaking. She always knew I wasn't sick. She just... let him. I know, he said, his voice rough with an emotion she couldn't name. It was deeper than anger, hotter than revenge. His thumbs brushed the unshed tears from her cheeks, a gesture so unexpectedly tender it stole her breath. "You were magnificent," he murmured. "You were fire." She's going to run to him. She's going to tell him, "I remember." Good. His hands slid from her shoulders to cup her face, his palms warm against her cold skin. His storm-gray eyes burned into hers, a blaze of obsession, of protection, of something that looked terrifyingly like devotion. Let him come. Let him see what he created. Let him see what I found. He lowered his head, and she knew this was not a brand. It was not a contract. "I can't lose you again, Elara," he grated, his voice thick with 10 years of searching, of planning, of waiting. "Not now. Not ever." He kissed her. It was not cold. It was not calculated. It was a conflagration. It was all the boy on the terrace's unspoken admiration, and all the man in the fire's desperate protection. It was 10 years of banked fury, and a decade of obsessive searching, unleashed in a single, consuming, devastating kiss. It was a claim, a vow, and a promise of the war to come. She didn't just kiss him back. She answered him. Her hands came up, not to push him away, but to fist in his shirt, pulling him closer, anchoring herself to him, her captor, her savior, her husband. The kiss broke, leaving them both breathless, foreheads pressed together. The storm raged outside, a symphony to the one that had just ignited inside the fortress. "The game has started," he breathed against her lips. "Then let's play," she whispered back.